This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Is the AFC North the toughest division in football? I don't know. But let's see what ESPN has to say, and let's react to Ryan Clark and the Get Up crew as they discuss who has the best division in football.
AFC North is the best division in the sport. Is that fact or fiction?
It's absolutely fact. When you look at the two top teams in the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, those rosters are stacked. The Cleveland Browns have actually gotten better throughout the offseason, and Deshaun Watson is entering his second year, his first full year as the starting quarterback there. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have a coach that's never had a losing record. When you look at all the divisions across the league, this is absolutely the best one.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Now, I don't think almost every division in the NFL has what you would call a relative punching bag. The AFC North does not. Whatever you think of the Cleveland Browns, you know that they're a very talented team with very talented players at very important positions. Even if their season doesn't plan out, they're a very good team. The Baltimore Ravens, look, they're going to be a good team as long as Lamar Jackson's healthy. And even if they don't pan out to have the greatest season in their franchise's history or whatever, they're still going to be a pretty tough team to beat because defensively, they're spectacular. Now, if Lamar Jackson goes down, it's going to be hard for them to win games, but it's also going to be hard to beat them with that defense. Pittsburgh's on a similar level where we don't think that offense is going to be very good, but that defense is still very good. And in the Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, all they've done is go to 2 back-to-back AFC championship games. So there's not really a weak link, right? Like other divisions, you could point at somebody and go, clearly, that team's probably not going to be good, or those two teams kind of concern me. The AFC North does not have a punching bag, which means that we're going to bring down each other's records or something like that if we all kind of stay healthy.
Completely. And Cleveland is one of the primary reasons why. Deshaun Watson and the Browns had their first practice of training camp yesterday as he heads into what will be his first full season in Cleveland. They play the Jets in 10 days in the Hall of Fame game. Not that we'll necessarily see most of the best players, but that's the reason those two teams started camp a little earlier. And look, the reality is we all have had our chance to talk about the Deshaun Watson situation, which has been about so much more than football over the course of time. The reality is, here it comes now, one way or another on the field, however people feel about it. He comes back after a long layoff. But when last seen, Ryan Clark, where did you have him? Purely as a football player, where did you rank him among the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
To me, it was Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson in 2020 was coming off of a season.
We'll get back to this, but yeah, I think a lot of people have forgotten, and rightfully so. It's been a long time, right? We're talking about there being a 2.5-year gap of Deshaun Watson's last start from his most recent start, or at least his first start with the Cleveland Browns. A huge gap, right? We had the pandemic. He played that 2020 season under the pandemic, so it was kind of forgotten about just because of those circumstances. 2021, he sits out, and then we have the whole situation where he misses most of last year. It's been a long time. And in that time, not just Joe Burrow has entered the conversation when it comes to elite quarterbacks, but Josh Allen has certainly firmed his way into that conversation. If you remember, in 2020, we were talking about Josh Allen getting better. It wasn't until 2021 that we were talking about Josh Allen top 5. You could say the same thing about Justin Herbert. You could say the same thing about a lot of younger quarterbacks. Hell, some people even trying to throw Trevor Lawrence in there. That's just last year. There have been a lot of changes to the quarterback landscape since Deshaun Watson was a fixture in it. There just has. So not only when he comes back, do people not know what to do with him? Not only when he comes back with people feeling very negative about him due to what he was doing off the field or alleged to do off the field. All of those things kind of pile up into, we don't know where to put Deshaun Watson. Then he comes back and he had an average 6 games back. Like, some of it was good, some of it was bad. People going to make whatever they want to make out of it. But the truth is that it was pretty average, right? Comes back, drops some average stuff, and then people lose their minds the whole offseason. We don't know where to put him. Also, another thing that makes this complicated is while Deshaun Watson was really good before that 2020 season, that 2020 season was the first elite Deshaun Watson season. And also, to add more complications to where we were going to rank him, is that team was 4-12 that he had that elite season with. And we're not really accustomed to elite quarterbacks winning 4 football games. The picture was cloudy with Deshaun Watson before any of this happened, right? It wasn't super cloudy like it is now, but it was cloudy. People didn't really know where to put him. Some people were putting him up there with Mahomes. Some people weren't. Just go back and look at some of the stuff I was posting about Deshaun Watson back then. We didn't have a consensus on where to put him. Then he misses 2 years, comes back, and now we really don't know where to put him. There has been a lot of confusion about where Deshaun is, but I think the better question, well, where Deshaun was. There's been a lot of confusion about that. I think the better question is to ask yourself, where is Deshaun projected to be now? Now that he's 28, now that he's on a good football team, now that he has the suspension and all the other things off of his radar. Now where is he? If we're going to talk about ranking him as a football player, that's where we have to have our mind at with him. And it's interesting, right? Because some people can say he was up there with Pat Mahomes. I know in 2020, I didn't think Deshaun Watson was up there with Pat Mahomes, right? Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. I didn't think that was the case. But some people most certainly did. Now it's up to him to make the revision to history, right? If he plays well, we're going to remember that 2020 season as the first show with the elite Deshaun Watson. He missed 2 years and he came back and he was elite again. If he plays average this year again, well, we're going to talk about that 2020 season a lot different. People are going to poke a lot of holes into that 2020 season, right? It's all about what he does going forward. It's going to write the history of the past. And really, when you look at what he has going forward, we don't really have that much to go off of, but what we do from camp looks pretty good. So let's get back to hearing what Ryan Clark's about to say.
It's Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson in 2020 was coming off of a season where the Houston Texans were 4-12. That year, Deshaun Watson passed for over 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So much so, he was so good, J.J. Watt, the future first ballot Hall of Famer, apologized to him. He said, Deshaun, I am sorry for wasting one of the best years I've ever seen out of a quarterback. That's just how good Deshaun Watson was. And so now, if he can get back close to that with guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper, you have David Njoku at the tight end position, and someone like Nick Chubb at running back. If they can find a way to get Deshaun Watson close to what he was, this is a team that could be very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality of it is, Kmart, and I sometimes feel like you are our AFC North correspondent because you're always there. I think expectations should be very high in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'll be there for the Hall of Fame game too. Listen, it's still early, but there's extreme confidence in that building and in that locker room that Deshaun Watson will be similar to what we saw before his 2-year layoff. And when you think about how special he was, there is, like you set it up perfectly, Greeny, there isn't that same cloud around him. Yes, you know, speculation, whatever, but it's all football. And that's where Deshaun has excelled on the field. We've seen him. They're really confident, and they've made a lot of changes. The Browns have given him everything to take that next step. So we're going to see if they put it together. Mike
T, it's a big year for.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because right now, again, we're not going off of a lot of information. We're probably barely going to see him maybe 2 drives in the preseason, even the whole preseason. So we're not going to have a ton of information to go off of by the time we get to the game day situation stuff with him. But What I have seen in camp is a more comfortable Deshaun Watson. What I have seen in camp and through his media appearances has been a more confident Deshaun Watson. One of the things that's interesting is even after his first initial media appearances, he really never did any interviews during that year, right? Last year. He really didn't. He talked to the media like 2 times, and then whenever he was mandated to do so, he did so. Now you're seeing him pop up in the spaces. He's doing different interviews here and there. Like, he seems to be much more comfortable just being able to talk about stuff, talk about football, and wherever he is on his journey and everything else like that. So he just seems more comfortable. He seems more confident. He seems like he's ready to play football again. Whereas last year, it seemed like he was eager to play football because he was eager to kind of have a distraction from everything else around him at that time and every other thought that he had. This year, it seems like he's just excited to play football. Like, it doesn't have all that extra on it. So that's what I find to be interesting with him this year and where he'll be. Obviously, the Browns have made some upgrades at wide receiver. They've made some upgrades at the defensive positions, and they've made upgrades throughout the team everywhere that you can look. So that's obviously going to help him out as well. But it's going to be one of the more intriguing things to see with Deshaun Watson is how he's feeling throughout camp, how he feels when he gets to the regular season, and how he performs this year. Because I said it in a video that I posted the other day, if Deshaun Watson's elite, this team's elite. If Deshaun Watson is great, this team's going to be great. No matter what happens on any other position, this team should probably be pretty good. They have too many good players to have great quarterback play and to not perform well. If Deshaun Watson is not great, they'll be all right? Like, I think they'll probably be, a single-digit loss team to maybe 11-win team if he's all right. But if Deshaun wants to win a Super Bowl, if Deshaun wants to have some of those greater achievements that he talks about wanting to have, he knows, like we know, this is a great opportunity to do it. What other opportunities are going to be much better than this? I don't know. So this is the window that Deshaun has to take advantage of now that he has the full year, now that he has no distractions coming into it, now that he can focus on football and get into football. This is the year for him. If he wants to win a Super Bowl, I don't know if he's going to have a better opportunity in his career than the next couple of years in Cleveland. And he has to be laser focused on that and understand how close he could be to those goals. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You have a great day. Have a good